What is up? Thanks for joining me on this Thursday night. Welcome to the bar, getting ready for Thursday night football. Crazy week, lots of stuff to discuss. A very, very busy bar tonight, which I'll get to in a minute. But first, I'm enjoying a Wasserhoon Oktoberfest lager. Yes, back to the Oktoberfest in mid-December. It is a 6.3 ABV. Cheers to all of you. A big Oktoberfest fan, Marzen fan, as all of you know. I appreciate every single one of you. Cheers on this Thursday night. Let's see what else people are drinking out there. Let's go to FLRob.76. Drinking good old Yingling tonight. Good old Yingling. Can't go wrong with Yingling. Slingtown OG says Long Trail Ale here on number 2. Thank you for jumping on in, as always. I appreciate you. Then we've got A.E. Harriman, my friend Amy, decorating the house, sipping a Raspberry Sun Cruiser. Cheers, everyone. A little late for decorating, although I do guess Kelly's decorating as well. Mr. Ruger 2, if I pronounce that correctly, helping Amy decorate while partaking in a Peach Sun Cruiser. Go Pats. Let's clinch the division this weekend. Yes, big game for the Patriots. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Chris Chapman says his wife made some potent rum-filled eggnog. That sounds like a fantastic time, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate you, my friend. Terry says that she's going to drink wine if the Patriots make the playoffs. Now, Terry is not a big drinker, so when she says she's going to have a glass of wine, it's for a very important reason. Patriots making the playoffs would absolutely be one of those reasons. Terry, great to see you hanging out tonight. Then we got Mr. Magoo, Shipyard Pumpkinhead. Good beer. Go Pats. Thank you, Mr. Magoo. I appreciate you. And Anonymous jumps in and says, me and my friends are working on a case of Bud. Hello to Anonymous and all of his friends. Hopefully all of you are hanging out, having a very good time on this Thursday night. All right, let's get started. Story number 5. We begin with Joe Burrow. So we all know that Cincinnati, their playoff chances are pretty much on life support. Doesn't look like the Bengals are going to get into the playoffs after losing to the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo last weekend. But that's not really the story. The story is Joe Burrow's press conference with the media this week. This is from Heavy.com's Matt Skillings. Burrow said, quote, if I want to keep doing this, I have to have fun doing it. I've been through a lot. And if it's not fun, what am I doing it for? That's the mindset I'm trying to bring to the table, unquote. Another quote from Burrow, I'm not sure there was a singular turning point. It's just a reflection on a lot of things that I've done and been through in my career. I think I've been through more than most, and it's certainly not easy on the brain or the body. There's just a lot of things going on right now. And if you watch this press conference, Joe Burrow not only sounded miserable, he also looked dejected. And Joe Burrow is not that type of guy. Joe Burrow usually has a great quote-unquote vibe about him. But Joe Burrow, during this press conference, looked like somebody who is tired of it. He's tired of what's going on in Cincinnati. He got to the Super Bowl very early in his NFL career. Since then, he's had all sorts of issues, and it hasn't been Burrow having these issues outside of the injuries. It's the football team. Joe Burrow was arguably the best quarterback in the NFL last year, but everybody forgets that. Josh Allen won the MVP. Everybody forgets how great Joe Burrow was last season. Unfortunately, the Cincinnati defense was wretched. It was week after week, Burrow and the offense putting up 30-plus points to only lose because their defense could not get out of their own way. And it's happened every single year, it feels like, since Burrow has been in the NFL. He sounded like a quarterback that is very dejected. He sounded like a quarterback who has taken a lot of hits. He sounded like a quarterback who has had to deal with an accumulation of injuries throughout his NFL career. And Joe Burrow, he turned 29 years old yesterday. Happy birthday to Joe Burrow. It was his birthday yesterday, and he turned 29. On the cusp of 30 years old, going through all of these significant injuries and surgeries, the fact that his team, his front office, his ownership will not improve the offensive line as much as it should try to improve it. The fact that this front office always swings and misses on the defensive side of the football. They should have traded Trey Hendrickson. They didn't. He gets hurt. They get nothing for him, and now he's going to walk in free agency. Mike Brown, the owner of Cincinnati, is, somebody who has long been known as mostly a cheap owner. He surprisingly paid T. Higgins and Jamar Chase last offseason, but he should have put some of that money towards the defense. He should have put more money towards the offensive line. And here we are. At 29 years old, Joe Burrow sounds practically defeated. And let's not forget Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck retired at 29 years old. It's kind of weird, right? If you are a Cincinnati Bengals fan, you're watching this press conference with Joe Burrow, and you realize he's 29, and Andrew Luck retired at 29. And Andrew Luck retired not because he just didn't love football anymore. Andrew Luck retired because he was hurting, because his front office failed to protect him. And he took about 1 billion hits, and he got tired of it. I think this is a clear message from Joe Burrow to the Cincinnati Bengals brass. Fix the offensive line, fix the defense. I'm tired of trying to carry this football team. I'm tired of playing hurt. Help me more. I'm glad you signed Chase and Higgins to those extensions, but you've got to help me more. You've got to protect me. I am your franchise. And if I'm not having fun and if I'm getting hurt every week, I'm out of here. Fix the defense, fix the O-line. Meanwhile, T. Higgins, a very interesting story. He just returned from a concussion. He leaves the Buffalo game on Sunday to return in that game. And he left because of another hit that looked pretty bad. He smacked his head on the turf. So going into the game, he clears the concussion protocol. During the game, he smacks his head, leaves the game, comes back to the game, and then this week he's placed back into the concussion protocol. And I have no idea how this type of thing continues to happen in the year 2025. I know concussions are difficult to evaluate at times, but we have to err on the side of caution. When a guy comes back from a concussion like T. Higgins did, and he's playing in the snow, and his head smacks the solid turf, you probably should just leave him out for the rest of the game. Side on the air of caution. I mean, it's just ridiculous. All right, let's move on to story number 4. Story number 4. Daniel Jones. This is rough. This is a rough one for Daniel Jones. Just absolutely awful. The Achilles injury. He's going to miss the rest of the season. Who knows how long he's going to be out for. And you look at this injury and you look at this situation for Daniel Jones, you want to talk about just terrible timing. During this football season, Daniel Jones has been ranked in the top 10. He's in the top 10 right now if you look. In passer rating, QBR, completion percentage over expected, and EPA. He's top 10 in all of those categories. He is having his best NFL season. Now, yes, I believe that he started to decline during this season. Indianapolis has started to decline over the past month or so before the injury. But still, Daniel Jones, who took a 1-year deal to be in Indianapolis, people thought that he was done. He was washed. He'll never do anything. And he was putting together a good season. And in some analytics, a very good season. And now he goes down with an Achilles injury. So not only does it stop this momentum that he had, just his season is stopped short. It also ruins the opportunity for him to get into the playoffs for a second time. With the Giants back in 2023, Daniel Jones was 1-1 in the postseason. This would have been a second opportunity to play in the postseason. And now that gets ripped away from him. But what's worse than that for Daniel Jones is that now contractually, what are you going to do? Daniel Jones was on the precipice of signing an extension when the Indianapolis Colts, traded for Sauce Gardner and dealt the picks that they dealt. They were telling the whole world, we are all in on Daniel Jones. We talked about it at the time of the Sauce Gardner trade. That was a statement from the Indianapolis Colts that they believed that Daniel Jones was going to be their starting quarterback of the future. Because you don't give up first-round picks. and you're not going to pay the type of money you're going to pay Sauce Gardner. You're not making that kind of move unless you believe the quarterback that you have is the quarterback that you're going to have moving forward. You believe in that guy as the franchise quarterback. And now if you're Indianapolis, what are you going to look at? You're going to look at Kirk Cousins in free agency? You don't have a pick where you can draft a young quarterback that you can be excited about. At quarterback for Indy, at least for the next 2 or 3 years, it was Daniel Jones or bust, and now he pops his Achilles on a 1-year deal. And for Daniel Jones, who, again, was on the precipice of a long-term extension, looking at good money, now what's he going to sign? He's probably left with signing another 1-year contract. And this is just absolutely brutal for Daniel Jones. And it's also brutal for the Colts because Daniel Jones has the Achilles. Anthony Richardson fractured his orbital and did all sorts of other stuff to his eye with a resistant band that he was working out with. Riley Leonard, who was drafted from Notre Dame, he's got a knee problem. So this all led the Colts to sign, of all people, Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers. And I have actual fear for Phillip Rivers' well-being. And this is not being facetious. I'm not being, hyperbolic. This is the honest truth. I fear what's going to happen to Phillip Rivers. Yeah, there's only a month left of the season, but this is a 44-year-old man. He has not played in the NFL since the COVID season. He hasn't played a snap since 2020. He's clearly not in great shape. If you saw the video at practice, he is clearly much heavier than the weight he played at. Should not be a surprise. He's been a high school football coach and he has 10 kids at home. So he's not in great shape. He's 44. He hasn't played in 5 years. Oh, and by the way, here's his schedule. At Seattle, against the Niners, against the Jaguars, and then at Houston. Seattle and Houston have two of the best defenses in the NFL. And Phillip Rivers, at 44 years old, is going to go out there and attempt to play good football. I legitimately fear for his health. That is a very dangerous proposition. What are you drinking on this Thursday night? I've got a Wasserhoon Oktoberfest. Cheers to all of you, 6.3 ABV. Let me know in the comments your drink of choice. I appreciate every single one of you. As we continue this episode of Crafts and Kickoffs live stream Thursday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, getting ready for Thursday night football. Not a great game tonight, honestly, is what it is. Slingtown OG, cheers. Long trail number 3 right now. Slingtown getting down. Big weekend ahead for all. Success can be fleeting in the NFL, evident all over this year. Slingtown, you are exactly right. You never know what's going to happen in the league. This year is especially crazy. This year is especially unpredictable. Denver, a lot of people like Denver. I don't know if a lot of people like Denver to have the 1 seed right now. People thought the Patriots would have a little bit of a, boost from Mike Vrabel and Drake Maye's second year. I don't think a lot of people thought that the Patriots would be at 11-2 in the 2 seed. It is kind of a crazy year. Thank you for the $20 super chat. I appreciate the generosity. Chris Chapman jumps in with a $20 super chat. Patriots give us a Festivus miracle and clinch the playoffs this weekend. Festivus. If anybody listened to my radio show, whether it was in Virginia or in Sacramento or when I did shows in Boston, always a big fan of Festivus. Always would do a Festivus show. Thank you, Chris, for the $20 super chat. I certainly appreciate you. And Mr. Ruger, too, love Festivus. Yes, Festivus for the rest of us is fantastic. All right, let's get to story number 3. Kansas City. Nick, you talk about Kansas City almost every week. I know. And I apologize if you're tired of the Kansas City talk, but this is one of the biggest storylines in the NFL. It has been one of the biggest storylines in the NFL this entire season. And I thought that the Kansas City Chiefs would find their way. I thought the Chiefs would be able to make a run at the end of the year. And by the end of week 18, we'd be sitting there saying, oh, do you remember when people were concerned and worried about the Kansas City Chiefs? How silly of those people. Well, here we are. It's week 15. In Kansas City, if you look at the athletics percentages of getting into the playoffs, Kansas City, their chance of getting into the postseason is now down to 11%. They have an 11% chance of getting into the postseason. Patrick Mahomes is still in his prime. It is downright amazing to me that Patrick Mahomes in his prime has an 89% chance of missing the playoffs this season. That is astounding to me. According to the same model, Kansas City has a 41% chance of getting to the postseason if they win out. If they win their last 4 games, they still have well under a 50% chance of getting to the postseason. This is shocking. And the game last weekend was just Andy Reid, to me, his 4th down decision-making was horrendous. Horrendous. Andy Reid's defense was playing fantastic football. Houston's offense in the second half was a disaster. And for whatever reason, Andy Reid decided to go for it on 4th down way too early. Way too early to go for it on 4th down. And he literally gift-wrapped great field position for Houston. And what does Houston do? Who couldn't do anything offensively? They quickly march down and score a touchdown. Brutal decision-making. And then Andy Reid went for it again on 4th down, which I thought was a mistake. Andy Reid was bad against the Texans on Sunday night. But you know who was worse? Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes was awful against the Texans. And I know the Texans defense is the best in the NFL. But my freaking goodness. Patrick Mahomes finished completing 42.4% of his passes. 42.4%. He had 160 yards passing, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. How bad was Mahomes against Houston last weekend? Ben Solak of ESPN posted, Mahomes ends the game with a negative 0.54 EPA per dropback. Worst of his career. That completion percentage that I just mentioned, worst of his career. He had a 19.8 passer rating. You guessed it, worst of his career. Sheil Kapadia of The Ringer, he posted, based on success rate, that was the Chiefs' worst offensive performance in a Patrick Mahomes start, regular season or playoffs. That is a sample size of 146 games. That was Patrick Mahomes' worst start of his NFL career. That was the Chiefs' offense worst game that Mahomes has ever quarterbacked. And Andy Reid was a mess. Travis Kelce's dropping passes. You know, it wasn't all on Mahomes, by the way. Your receivers have to catch the football. But man, was that tough to watch. And I know we talked about their offensive line dealing with injuries. Their offensive line was a mash unit. And if you're going against the Houston Texans pass rush and that Houston Texans defensive line, the last thing that you need is a number of injuries on your offensive line. So yes, there were mitigating circumstances, but Patrick Mahomes, still, you can't play that bad. You're the best quarterback of your generation. You can't have that type of game. Your team needs to win. Your team has almost zero margin for error. You can't have a game like that. And so when you look at the rest of the AFC, let's quickly run this down. Right now, it is unlikely that Kansas City, Cincinnati, or Baltimore make the playoffs. It's much, much more likely that those 3 teams are out. They're all on life support. Baltimore's got a better chance because the division, the AFC North, is not good. But Kansas City is barely breathing. Cincinnati is even worse. And Baltimore lost last weekend, and they're in the middle of it. I mean, who would have predicted if I told you before the season that week 15 we would be talking about Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson all not in the playoffs as of week 15? You would have looked me in the eye and told me I was crazy. But that's where we are. Right now, December 11th, Mahomes, Burrow, Jackson, all out of the playoffs. AFC playoff picture, Denver is your number 1 seed. New England is your 2. Jacksonville is your 3. Pittsburgh is your 4. And then you've got the 3 wild cards, the Chargers, the Bills, and the Texans. To me, Houston and Buffalo are the most dangerous teams, on that list. The Patriots, to me, I would probably put them at number 1 if I was doing a power rankings right now, just because they've been the most complete team and they really haven't had any letdown games. But if you ask me who's the dangerous team, especially if you're not talking about one of the top 2 or 3 seeds, I mean, the Pats are the 2nd seed. Out of the other teams, Buffalo is dangerous because Josh Allen is dangerous. Matt Milano's back. Jordan Poyer's at safety. Buffalo's always dangerous because Josh Allen. And then the Texans. That defense for Houston and C.J. Stroud, when he's playing well, he's good, man. And when you look at the Texans' run, they have won 6 of their last 7 games, including wins against the Niners, the Jaguars, the Bills, the Colts, and the Chiefs. Their only loss in the last 7 games was to Denver, and that was a 3-point loss. Houston is for real. Houston's a tough team. Now, are they flawless? No. There's no team in the AFC, and there's no team in the NFL that's flawless. Maybe the closest one is the Rams, and the Rams just lost a couple weeks ago. But when you look at Houston, I've got questions about Nick Caley, their offensive coordinator. I've got questions about their second half offense. I've got questions about their offensive line, their run game. It just has not been nearly good enough especially the last several weeks. So they've got questions. But if you're asking me who's dangerous, Buffalo with Josh Allen and Houston because of that defense. Dangerous teams. All right, let's get to story number 2. Boy, oh boy, did Jalen Hurts stink out loud on Monday night or what? My freaking goodness. Philadelphia now, 3-game losing streak. Talk about that in a minute. But before I do, I want to get to another super chat here from Greg Fields. Go Patriots. Football emojis, celebratory emojis. Thank you, Greg, for the $10 super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Greg is a Patreon member, watches a lot of these pods. Can't say enough about Greg and many others here in the crowd. So Philadelphia has lost 3 in a row. Philadelphia is 4-4 in their last 8 games. Their best defensive player, Jalen Carter, just had double shoulder surgery. But the biggest issue is Jalen Hurts. He was terrible on Monday night. I mean, to go from Patrick Mahomes on Sunday night to watch that struggle to watching Hurts on Monday night, man, what a stink sandwich. Hurts was just god-awful. When you look at the NFL, right, you look at the quarterback statistics from Week 14, Jalen Hurts was 20th in completion percentage, 52.5%. He was 27th in passer rating at 31.3. He was 18th in completion percentage over expected at minus 5.7%. He was 26th in EPA, minus 18.1. He had 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a fumble, and a partridge in a pear tree. Jalen Hurts was awful. And the Philadelphia offense continues to crater. Aaron Schatz, who is the maestro of the DVOA analytic. The Eagles' offensive DVOA, weeks 1 through 8, you could argue, DVOA-wise, the Philadelphia Eagles offense was top 10. They weren't consistent, but they were 9th. DVOA, they were 9th in offense, weeks 1 through 8. Since week 10, weeks 10 through 14, the Philadelphia Eagles offense in DVOA is 26th overall. They went from 9th the first 2 months to the last 4 or 5 weeks down to 26th. Their offense is cratering. And what's even tougher for Philly is while their offense is cratering, their defense has been excellent. When you look at the Eagles' defensive DVOA, it's completely flipped. So the first 2 months, weeks 1 through 8, the Eagles had the 9th best offense, the 15th ranked defense. Weeks 10 through 14, they've had the 26th ranked offense and the 4th ranked defense. Their defense has been top 5 since week 10. but they've been 500 the last 8 weeks because their offense is that bad. Their offense is predictable. They're constantly in the shotgun. Their run game has been inconsistent all year long. If you watch this team, it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, and they're constantly throwing screen passes to wide receivers. I don't get it. A ton of short throws on 3rd and long. They love screens on like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, wide receiver bubble screens that hardly ever work. Their offense is falling apart as their defense is stepping up. Now, fortunately for Philly, they have a soft schedule. They play the Raiders this week, who stink. They've got the Commanders 2 out of the last 3 weeks. The Commanders are not good. And then you slide in Buffalo, at Buffalo. Buffalo is the toughest game, but Vegas and Washington twice. Philly can still end up looking pretty good by the end of the year. But I'm not going to be fooled. They might be one of those teams that, they still have a race in the NFC East because the Cowboys are 6-1. Cowboys play the Vikings, the Chargers, and then they've got Washington and the Giants to finish the year. So the NFC East could come down to the final week. Could. But I'm not going to buy into the Eagles going into the postseason because their offense has been bad. They're going to play better teams in the postseason. So Jalen Hurts, man, making a lot of money, Super Bowl champion quarterback, lots of questions. Terry Grant jumps in. How about this? A $50 super chat. Marilyn checked in from overseas and said, happy holidays to Nick and friends. Happy holidays, Marilyn. I saw that you left a message, a comment on last week's episode. You're watching from overseas. Nick, you might have to take that sip of coffee next week. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I'm going to have to go to Kelly and get the best type of coffee that I can have that won't kill me. Yeah, I don't drink coffee. Again, I don't drink coffee. So if I drink coffee, I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be like bouncing off the walls. Oh, right on cue. Fire alarm. That's good stuff. Kelly's cooking. Thank you for the $50 super chat, Terry. Incredible generosity. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. Happy holidays to you. You having wine and me drinking coffee maybe next week. What a time to be alive. Here comes the alarm again. Here we go. This is what we do. Perfect timing when you're doing a live stream. Story number 1. The bar's on fire. Story number 1, as I drink my Wasserhoon Oktoberfest. Hopefully all of you are enjoying yourself. A 6.3 ABV on this Oktoberfest. Let's look at the top matchups of Week 15 before we send you out at the bar. Not as epic on paper as last week was. However, several fun and or interesting games this week. I'm looking at Baltimore-Cincinnati. I know I talked about both teams not being in the playoffs right now. This could be Baltimore's last gasp, and I wonder how they're going to look. How much fight will they have? Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson is always going to be fun, similar to last week's, Joe Burrow versus Josh Allen. Jackson is still not right. I don't think he's healthy, but hopefully he's good enough to, make this game fun. Maybe, just maybe, John Harbaugh's in trouble. I doubt it, but we'll see. So Baltimore-Cincinnati is an interesting game. Chargers-Chiefs. Which offensive line is in worse shape? I mean, the Chargers starting tackles out for the year. Kansas City's offensive line situation is really bad. Which offensive line is going to survive this game this weekend? Justin Herbert, by the way, we talk about Jalen Hurts and the way he looked on Monday night. Shout out to Justin Herbert, who, his offensive line is just a mess. He was pressured more than 60% of the time on Monday night, which is an outrageous amount. You want to talk about somebody who's tough, the quarterback warrior, Justin Herbert, man. And I'm interested to see how Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes respond and how Andy Reid responds to last week's game. Then you've got Detroit, the Rams. Detroit right now, outside looking in. If the playoffs began tomorrow, Detroit not in the playoffs. They are currently the 8th seed in the NFC. Of course, every time Detroit plays against the Rams, we got to talk about Jared Goff versus Matthew Stafford. That's always a fascinating matchup. And you've got the explosive defense of Detroit, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams against the Rams defense. The Rams, as I said earlier, I would still say they are the best team in the NFL. They've got to finish strong over the final month. But this game, Lions, Rams, should be awesome to watch. Packers, Broncos, a compelling, intriguing matchup. Green Bay is trying to catch the Rams as the number 1 seed in the NFC. The Rams are 10-3. The Packers are 9-3-1. So if the Rams lose this weekend and Green Bay wins this weekend, Green Bay is the number 1 seed thanks to that tie against Dallas 40-40 several weeks ago. Jordan Love is making a push, an MVP-like surge from Jordan Love. He's been playing great, but this is obviously a big-time challenge with the Broncos defense, who absolutely get after the quarterback. And Denver, of course, is trying to hold on to that number 1 seed in the AFC. The best overall record between Denver and New England will end up with that number 1 seed because Denver, they actually have the tiebreaker. So New England has to have a better record than Denver if they want to try to take that 1 seed. So Green Bay at Denver. And then speaking of New England, the game of the weekend, I think for a lot of people, you got the Bills at the Patriots. And this is for the AFC East division. This is for AFC East supremacy. If the Patriots beat the Bills, they win the AFC East. How many people had the Patriots winning the division by week 15? How many people had the Patriots winning the division, period? End of sentence. Not many, not me. But the Patriots actually have the opportunity to wrap up the division by beating Josh Allen and the Bills this weekend at Gillette Stadium with home field advantage. And the Drake Maye, Josh Allen comparisons going back to the 2024 draft, they seem more apt now than ever. Drake Maye versus Josh Allen now is a terrific quarterback duel, and hopefully we have this for many years to come. So I think a lot of people will be watching this football game just because of the two quarterbacks. Buffalo is looking to avenge their Week 5 loss on Sunday Night Football, national television, when the Patriots went into Buffalo and beat them. They want to avenge that loss. And the Patriots, some people look at that Week 5 win and say, well, it was fluky. The Bills didn't play well. They turned the football over a bunch. And so the Patriots, if they win on Sunday, that is really putting the stamp down on it, right? If they beat Buffalo on Sunday, they beat them twice this season. And I think a lot of people will look at that and say, all right, far from a joke. That win Week 5 in Buffalo was not a fluke. It wasn't a lucky win. It was a win because the Patriots, at least during the regular season, are a better football team than the Buffalo Bills. If the Buffalo Bills beat the Patriots on Sunday in New England, I think some people will absolutely look back and say, well, Week 5 was kind of a weird game. Buffalo didn't play well. And then Buffalo, they made amends. They go to New England. They beat the Patriots. And I think some people will say, even if the Patriots end up winning the division this year, I do think some people will say, well, that division is still Buffalo's to lose going into 2026. So that game is going to be, I think, a great game. If you want more thoughts on that game, check out Locked On Patriots Friday's episode. I do a deep dive into that Patriots-Bills matchup. I do think it's going to be a great, great game. Enjoy the week of football. Thank you for everybody showing up. Can't say enough to all of you for continuing to support this live stream, support this show even on demand. Thank you so much for all the super chats. Enjoy the weekend of football. Patriots fans, enjoy Sunday. Check me out, Locked On Patriots postgame, following the game. We will see you here at the bar again next Thursday at 7 p.m. Until then, be well.